to my kitchen. I'm Gigi, and we're going to talk a little bit about a pot roast in the Instapot. Last week I put out a video for French dips and how to make a French dip from your leftover pot roast. So I guess I'm kind of doing this a little bit backwards, but anyway, let's get started. I used brisket last time for Sunday dinner in the pot roast. You can do the same process for whatever cut you're using. You just have to change the time according to your weight. So this is a chuck tender. It weighs about 2 pounds. I'm going to put it in my Instapot right now on sear. Now I've already rinsed it, patted it dry. I really haven't added the salt and pepper to it because I will while it's browning a little bit in Instapot. Along with our roast, we're going to add some onions, some celery, 2 bay leaves, some black peppercorn, and salt. And then our braising liquid, or pressure cooking liquid, will be red wine. And this is a dry red wine. We will put the lid on it, and we'll pressure cook this for about an hour, and we'll check the tenderness. If we need to go a little longer, we will. Now, when I did the 5-pound brisket, I doubled that, and I went 2 hours, and I checked it at the 1 hour mark. So depending on how much pounds, depends on how long you'll pressure cook it. But we're just going to brown it a little bit on the saute mode. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can just put it in there and add all your stuff to it. Should have got my meat fork out in the beginning. There we go. So we're just going to brown it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be too brown. It's all going to fall apart anyway. The browner you get, the more fond you get, the more flavor you get. So we do want to brown it a little bit. One important thing is we will be adding our carrots and our potatoes, but we won't put those in until after we get our roast as tender as we like. So after an hour, if it's good and tender, we'll put our chunks of potatoes and carrots in, and then we'll pressure cook them for about another 8 to 10 minutes, and they're done. Then after that, we will take them out and make our au jus. Most important, the reason we put those in at the end is you pressure cook them now. By the time you get done, you will have mush. So this way you will still have firm potatoes, firm carrots. My onions, my celery, my bay leaf, my peppers, by the time we pressure cook them, they will all be mush. So here we go. I'm going to roll this over again. There we go. I'm going to add some salt, a good sprinkling of salt. I'm going to add in my onions. It has a half a yellow onion, 2 bay leaves, my peppercorn, and my celery sticks. So I'm good with all that. I'm going to pour in my wine. And that is a good half a bottle of wine or 2 cups of wine. Now we're going to put our lid on here. We're going to cancel the saute. We're going to put our pressure cook on high for 1 hour, and then we'll come back and check it. Cancel, pressure cook, 1 hour, 60 minutes. There we go. And we're ready to get started. So there we are. And I'll see you back here in 1 hour. I made it back, and we are going to take our little chuck roast out of our Instapot. I actually ended up pressure cooking it for 1 hour and let it slow release. And then I opened it, wasn't as tender as I'd like it to be, so I pressure cooked it. So I pressure cooked it again for another 30 minutes, and then I let it slow release for 10 minutes, and then I just did a quick release on it. So we're gonna see how we are right now. Here's our little chuck roast, and it has shrunk. And they always do, so make sure that you're going to have enough roast for everybody. Now I just did this one little roast for the video. If I was doing a cooking for a family, I would definitely be looking at making sure that I had a roast that once it shrunk down by half size, it would be enough to go around plus leftovers. So anyway, here's our roast. And we have all our juice in here. So I'm going to set this aside. And I usually cover it, but I'm not going to do that right this second. And then I have my strainer, which I love this little strainer. The only problem is that it's a separator. So when the grease goes to the top, I can pull the handle, the juice can come through the bottom, and I don't get all the fat, which works out really well. But you have to be really careful with this because sometimes it can jar, and then you're pouring it in and it's just running out the bottom. So make sure it's good and locked in place. I always set it on a dish first. Got my towel, and hopefully we're not going to make a big giant mess. Pull the pan out and pour my juice in here and let the strainer top catch everything. So, there we go. Now what's left in here is just mush. So I'm going to empty that out. Our carrots are going in. But I do want to cut my potatoes into some large chunks. I don't want to put them in there whole, but I don't want little bitty chunks either. So usually I have a cutting board up here, but I don't today. And see, there's some black on there. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to cut that in half. Take that end off. Take that off. There's another black spot. Oh my goodness. Okay. So then I'm going to just have some nice big chunks. About like that. And I'm just making a bunch of potatoes up because we like potatoes. So even if we don't eat them all today, we will eat these tomorrow. So there's some more. I'll take that off. And you can peel them if you want. I don't usually peel my potatoes. So I don't need a lot of moisture in here, but I am going to put some more in here. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and some pepper and some seasoning to this, but this is my gravy here, or juice if you will, and I'm going to put a little bit across the bottom, maybe about a ½ inch, and then set that back over there. And potatoes can take a lot of salt, so we can add some salt to that. And some pepper. There we go. A little bit of fresh ground black pepper. There we go. Put my lid back on. And then I'm going to set my pressure cook again for 10 minutes. Pressure cook. And I'm going to go to 10 minutes. and let it go. And it's ready and it's going. It'll heat up, pressure cook 10 minutes, slow release for a little while, and then it'll be ready. So I'll see you back here in 10 minutes. So here we are, we've got our final product. Our potatoes and carrots are really good and tender, so they're ready to go. They took 10 minutes in the Instapot. I did a quick release on them. I didn't wait for them to slow release. I think they would have been mushed, but our carrots are good too. So they're ready to go. Our roast looks excellent. I went ahead and sliced it. So that's nice and ready to go. And then I went ahead and made the gravy. So I just had the wine and the juice from the roast. I added stock to it so that it would go further. So I had half and half. Half of the juice from here, and then I doubled that with the stock. Added my slurry to it, and so now I have the gravy. As you can see, it's nice and thick, and it'll make great au jus for sandwiches, or you can also freeze this for a beef stock later on. So what we're going to do is just get ready to eat some. So I always like to put my big chunks of potatoes in first. A couple of those. A slice of, here's my fork, a slice or two of roast that's so tender it just falls apart. And this whole thing only took altogether with my prep 2.5 hours in the Instapot. So you could do the same thing in the oven if you braise it, but it will take you a lot longer, about 4 to 4.5 hours. So that's why. And then we have the leftovers we saved for our French dips. So there you have it. Pot roast from the Instapot. Hope you enjoy. You can do this. See you next week. Bye.